The sports team. Sports comes your way each and every weekday right here on 3FM Sunrise. Now we're getting into a very important conversation. Now this one after the viral video that went obviously here, there and everywhere. This one concerns Sammy Gyamfi, Gold Board CEO, giving out some money after a gathering. Now the chief of staff, we're told, and this is on 3news.com, has summoned Gold Board CEO Sammy Gyamfi over Agrada money video. And the story is as follows, after which we'll put up the public code of conduct. 6 this morning, we were trying to determine which specific area in that code of conduct could be in violation, but I'll quickly get into that story on 3news.com and you too can check it out. And other related stories. Now, Chief of Staff Julius Deborah has summoned Ghana Gold Board CEO Sammy Gyamfi after a video surfaced showing him giving money to Nana Agrada. Now, the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, has urgently summoned Sammy Gyamfi following the widespread circulation of a video showing him handing over an undisclosed amount of money, reportedly in US dollars, to evangelist Patricia Udro-Cranting, also known as Nana Agrada. 3 news sources at the Jubilee House confirmed that the Chief of Staff has requested Mr. Gyamfi to appear and provide a detailed explanation regarding the circumstances surrounding the transaction. Now, the video depicting what appears to be a personal interaction between the public official and the controversial religious figure has ignited significant public critique and raised serious ethical concerns. Now, the purpose of the cash handover remains unclear, but the visual of a high-ranking government official providing money to Nana Agrada has fueled intense speculation and public backlash. Critics have argued that this incident potentially undermines President John Dramani Mahama's recently implemented code of conduct for public officials, which prioritizes integrity, accountability, and transparency within public service as part of broader anti-corruption efforts. In a response to the controversy, Sammy Gyamfi issued an apology on Sunday, May 11, characterizing the act as a private gesture of kindness that regrettably became public. You have CSOs and other members of the general public reacting to this. You've got Transparency International Ghana calling on the president to act over Sammy Gyamfi's cash gift to Agrada. I'll get into that story also very quickly. It's also captured on 3news.com. Transparency International Ghana has urged President Mahama to act on Sammy Gyamfi's controversial cash donation to Nana Agrada. Now, the executive director of Transparency International Ghana, Mary Ada, has called on President John Dramani Mahama to take decisive action following public uproar over a controversial cash gift made by him. He's the acting CEO of the Ghana Gold Board to Nana Agrada. Now, the gift, which was reportedly made in dollars, was captured in a widely circulated social media video. Now, speaking on Channel 1 TV on Sunday, May 11, Marietta emphasized the need for a stronger accountability framework for public office holders. She urged the president to use the incident as a moment to demonstrate his administration's commitment to ethical governance. Okay, some thoughts there from some CSOs. As I mentioned, we'll put up the public code of conduct and where we see the clause or a clause that could potentially ensnare the public office holder. Sixtus, we're looking at the public code of conduct, and this morning you mentioned that you've had your look through, a comb through at least. We're looking at ministerial conduct, which though is talking about ministers. I don't know if that would extend to all of them, to all the CEOs. All right.
The definition is actually there. It's
okay.
Though minister is mentioned, it covers CEOs, deputy CEOs, deputy ministers, all the appointees.
All of them, all the presidential staffers and the like. Okay, so in reading that,
staffers, all of them.
All of them. So in reading that, ministerial conduct, it means all the appointees as we have outlined. We can get into it. but in particular, Sixtus, if you look at E, so it runs A to H, but in particular, looking at E, and it says, so I'll read the paragraph preceding, and then I'll read you A. This is again on ministerial conduct. The minister is held to the highest standard of conduct in his or her actions, including those directly related to his or her functions. Hence, the minister must, and in particular I'm looking at E, perform his or her duties and manage his or her personal affairs in a manner that can stand the closest public scrutiny. Sixtus, how does that sit with you, given the context of this latest saga?
Personal affairs. That's E, right? Personal affairs is the key word here. It says manage it in a way that you are not found wanting, no matter who is scrutinizing that conduct or that affair. Situating it in the discussion that we have, or the conduct of the CEO of Gold Board, then again, we go back to some of the questions that I asked. Does that mean that, in fact, even the scrutiny, let's start from the scrutiny.
Right.
Who is scrutinizing?
Does that matter?
What's the standard of the scrutiny? And it was the same comment that we have heard before, that the fact that an allegation has been made does not mean that it is proved, or that the appointee should necessarily be sacked. Now, who is scrutinizing? What's the standard for this scrutiny? So that we don't also go about, taking public officers to task out of personal reasons. Do you get it? So this probably would cover the examples that I gave earlier about they being members of the community, they attending the same funerals with us, they attending the same naming ceremonies or weddings with us, and they attending the same social events and other neighborhood engagements that we all have.
That's right. That
would be part of the special or personal affairs of the minister. But really, are they personal? Because the person is probably giving that invitation, not just because the person is a member, but also because the person sits in a certain position in the society. And so you bring him to the event, all right, but you give him a different kind of a seat. So it ties closely to the conduct of the person as a public officer. So if you look at it from that angle, yes, we must ensure that whatever our lifestyle is as appointees, whatever our personal affairs are as appointees, whenever we are in the public, whenever we are interacting with the rest of society, there's a certain standard that we set for ourselves. But then again, we come back to it, situating the facts that we have on or into this framework that we have. Really, you want to give money to somebody. I keep coming back to it because it is the incident that we have.
Right.
So that tomorrow we don't have the same analysis on another case, and we say, yesterday he said this, today he's saying a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
The facts that we have say that the woman approached him after their conversations. And I'm saying this from the perspective of the woman, because that is what the woman has put out. That's Agrada. Agrada approached Sami Jemfi. Says, after their conversation, he says, but give me full money. He gave money. So is that the kind of personal affair that we are scrutinizing and expecting it to stand a certain scrutiny?
Right.
What would be that objective, that standard of that scrutiny? Because it's a public officer. The officer cannot give out money to another person. Or is it the quantum of the amount? Mm-hmm. Is it? So if it's a public officer, the public officer should not give money exceeding a certain amount. Is that in the code? So I'm just saying that, yes, there are ways in which we expect our public officers to act. For instance, Sami Jemfi is a married man. right?
Indeed.
If he was caught in the room with a woman at a certain ungodly hour, dressed in a certain manner, then we're having this discussion, I would activate that clause that you just read out. You say that, well, it's his personal life to be with the people he chooses to be with. But the moment the light is shown on that personal affair, then it should be able to stand all tests, the moral tests, the legal tests, the religious tests, the whatever standard you are setting. Do you get it? And that's how I understand the public scrutiny there. That if we are scrutinizing you morally, will your conduct stand the test of the society or the scrutiny of the society? If we're looking at it legally, will your conduct stand the test of the society? If we're looking at it religiously, will that conduct stand the test of that public scrutiny? That's how I'm looking at it in terms of your conduct standing public scrutiny. So we should be able to measure that.
Absolutely. Sixtus, thank you so much for your well thought out perspectives on this issue. Let's go onto the phone lines now and speak with Mr. Edem Senanu. He's an anti-corruption campaigner. Mr. Senanu, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, I am.
Now, are you surprised by the virality of this video in which we see the acting Gold Board CEO, Sammy Gyamfi, giving out some dollars to what many describe as a controversial religious figure?
Well, no. I think that it is well logical for people to be concerned because of the role he currently plays. So persons are concerned that is there any association with the role he's playing? Is this a kind of living or lifestyle? So there are legitimate concerns being raised in the minds of citizens from that viral clip.
Right. And would you then say that these acts, even if personal or symbolic, can erode the public trust in governance and the fight against corruption? And how so exactly? Because we're also situated within our culture and how we do things. When officialdom go for programs and events, they are accosted by the general public seeking funds, help, and so on and so forth.
Well, to be honest, I have reflected on this, looked at the clips, looked at his apology, and the fact is, under the current circumstances, Mr. Sammy Gyamfi has not, as it were, breached any existing law. Even if you look at the definitions of corruption, whether influencing, bribing, extortion, embezzlement, you wouldn't find anything that has been breached. The next question is there a policy? And that's where perhaps the code of conduct would have helped. Looking at the code of conduct, there doesn't still seem to be anything direct. However, is there a question, an issue to be answered? And yes, there is. And what is it? Because he is now a public office holder, and that's where circumspection is important, ensuring that you don't seem to be living an ostentatious life or acting in things that might bring the office into disrepute. And that's where I think Mr. Sammy Gyamfi may have breached what people would consider as appropriate for his current office. And I think that this is a lesson for all of them. There's a transition that's been made from public life into public life. These things would not have raised eyebrows if, as a private person in your personal capacity, you were giving money to somebody as a humanitarian initiative. Nobody's going to raise eyebrows. Now that you are the acting chief executive, you've got to be careful because people could logically draw the conclusion, does this relate to the role? Is it money that's supposed to be, even though it might be quite stretched, it is legitimate for people to think this way. So it's to that extent that I think, assuming the code of conduct doesn't have this, it ought to have some portion on bringing your office into disrepute or ostentatious living. Things that once you're a public officer, all of us are concerned that you should live within your means. You shouldn't give us reason to want to check what is the source of the money you're giving out. Even though I give him a certain credit, it clearly he didn't stand in an open space. He was supposed to be in the privacy of his car. And it doesn't look like he was aware that they had brought a camera in there. But it doesn't take away from the fact that he's now a public officer and ought to do things differently.
Now, when it comes to this issue of lifestyle, displaying opulence, how do we really measure that?
I think the rule of thumb is just to do everything in modesty. I'm very conscious of the fact that the average Ghanaian doesn't hold dollars. Just one of those notes is likely to be the salary of an average Ghanaian. So modesty, nothing that, would begin to raise eyebrows. And I'm sure all of us can simply know that something like giving out dollars would raise eyebrows. So just be modest and circumspect, thinking through what would the average Ghanaian, the ordinary Ghanaian, think about these actions? Because really, according to Article 1.1 and Article 35.1, is the people who have entrusted power in your hand for a period, and you're accountable to them. And that power is supposed to be in the name of the people and for the welfare of the people. Those portions of Article 1.1 are important. You wield the power, the role you now occupy in the name of the people to promote the welfare of the people. Categoric statement. Do these actions promote the welfare of the people? You need to be careful because then somebody will tell you that, look, we have been working around. We haven't seen that kind of money. And why are you dealing in dollars? So there are things that he needs to take. And I think it's a lesson learned for all of them, that this transition into public life demands much more for them than they were expected to in a private capacity.
So, Mr. Senanu, you would say that this is also an issue of tact rather than, let's say, legality?
Yes, it's about a public office holder doing what is appropriate for public office holders. I don't think you're going to find any law that stops him from that. Even in terms of policy, what I've seen from the Code of Conduct doesn't cover this. Even though, yes, ideally there should be a section on bringing the office or the government into disrepute, that would serve as a caution. And then, of course, ostentatious living. I mean, we say lifestyle is important because that's where we want to check what are the sources of your income. Are they legitimate? Could you, within your means, have afforded to do this? I know in his private capacity, he's a lawyer. So
that's right.
In my mind, this may be a mute issue because it's very well conceivable that it would earn monies, including in dollars. However, once you occupy a public office, you should not be seen to be doing things that then raise questions, as has been the case in this instance.
Now, how can civil society hold public figures accountable in these sort of gray area situations where legality might not be clear-cut, but ethics are being questioned?
Civil society, and I think we will all be on the same page in this matter. I've been encouraging the president that, look, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which last year got to the presidency, or at the cabinet level, ought to be picked up, dusted, finalized, sent back to Parliament and passed. Because you need a law in place. You need a comprehensive law in place. And the COPU was designed to cover all these things, including administrative and, conduct-related things. It's really of no value when it's just an executive policy. Because in that context, either the president himself has to act, and if nobody brings his mind to it or alerts him, he may not be in a position to know that any of his officers have done something wrong which the public is aggrieved or a section of the public is dissatisfied with. And to that extent, therefore, it's important to make it a law. The law then allows all 35 million Ghanaians, wherever we are, watching these officers to say, look, you've breached this law. And if you're not mindful, if you're not taking this seriously, somebody can take you to court. I think that's the most effective way of ensuring that we hold officers, duty bearers accountable when they're in office. So we do need the passage of the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. We appreciate the President and the government's effort to pass this code of conduct, but we think that at this stage, this country needs more and deserves more.
Now, Mr. Sananu, I want to expand the tentacles of the conversation a bit more and talk about this normalized political culture where there is an expectation of public officials to give money to individuals, groups, or religious figures, especially when they attend programs such as weddings, funerals, naming ceremonies, and the like. How do we situate that within the conversation because of that cultural context? Is it the case now that public officials should not be seen, giving out money at these events? Or again, is it a question of tact and a case-by-case scenario?
I think that when the law will be a starting point, and even that law, we have codified the fact that public officers should not be going out giving money. In the same vein that we say gifts of a certain tune. And by the way, my view is that the 20,000 is on the high side as a minimum threshold.
That's right.
I think it should be much, much lower to serve the caution. Codified in law. Then you have government, civil society, NCCE, media, doing education to citizens that, by the way, your MPs, your legislators, whoever, whichever politician is likely to face the sanctions and the rigor of the law if they are seen doling on money. Because we all know that what they give out, they're going to have to find a way to pick up. It's as simple as that. What goes out, something must come in for it to go out. And if it goes out, something must come in. And we do know that what they earn will not allow them to continue to do that in a sustainable way. All the data on what they use for campaigns, etc., tell us that it's way, 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 way above their means. And so what it is that the public, citizens, are, what's the word? We are complicit in supporting criminality.
You say we are complicit as a society?
Yes, we are complicit. People have said over again that Ghana has become a big crime scene because we are encouraging public officers to do things which we all know that there is no way that sustainable. They could be giving all this kind of money, going to funerals, going to weddings, having a line of people come up every morning when they're in their constituency, everybody's getting some money.
That's right.
It's just unsustainable. What it means is that where are they getting that money from? And then it's the same people complaining when you want to go and pass a bill and then there's suggestion that, you have to take them to some place out of town, you have to give them some per diems or special allowances, ways and means to just make sure that they are having that extra money. I think that we should take a good look at ourselves and understand we are complicit in what we see at that level. And so once there is a law, I think it's a good starting point for us to know that all of us need to make sure that the right things, and that way we will not have the situation where certain actions are being taken just so that they can make more money, which at the end of the day, we, the people, are the ones who are going to be at the short end of the stick.
Thank you for that. In fact, that answers my next question, because I was going to ask whether or not we can really fight this canker of corruption in a situation or a society where a lot of people see politicians as personal benefactors. So I know you mentioned that a law is or will be beneficial, but it also appears from your last answer that a societal mind shift is also necessary. How long that will take, I'm not too sure.
Well, I think that if the law is being rigorously enforced, and that's our challenge, and in my view, I've always felt that there are certain rules you need to find the Ghanaian citizen who has the bent for that. Not all of us are strikers. I like to use football. That there was a season where Ghana suffered not having strikers, so it didn't matter how much beautiful football we played, we were not winning any game. I need to find the people who have that posture of being able to enforce the law. Whether it's an issue of disallowance and surcharge, we seem to have guys who don't want to enforce them. So we need many more of that kind. Let's look at people who have. And then once you have an institution enforcing the law, people are going to have to play, because whatever you do, that institution under the leadership of whoever is put there is going to continue picking up people and having you sanctioned. And you recognize, and that's where we also need to just accept that these are the kind of people we need to move our society forward. In my mind, I don't think it should take more than 2 years of consistent application of a law of this kind. At the same time, I think that the magnitude of how we are impacted as ordinary citizens needs to be properly captured by media. So you make a direct connection between how these monies they give out at weddings and what have you, at programs, how at the end of the day, they are finding ways of picking it up. And what that means, therefore, is that you have perhaps procurement that ought not to be done in a particular way. You have overinflated contracts, and you have poor quality results in terms of what is done because the contractor or supplier then thinks, okay, I have to do a kickback, and therefore let me cut my costs. And it gets into the quality of the roads and the infrastructure that we receive and the services. So doing that connection so that we know that it's a good thing to stop this and live within our means, I think would be helpful.
And Mr. Senanu, finally, before I let you go, our 3 news sources at Jubilee House confirm that the Chief of Staff has requested Sammy Gyamfi to appear and provide a detailed explanation regarding the circumstances surrounding what you and I saw in that viral video. What are you hoping to hear at the end of the day? Hello?
Hi, I'm happy that Mr. Sammy Gyamfi had already given a public apology. I'm also glad Chief of Staff has invited him. I think that beyond that, we should be hearing a caution at the minimum, and that caution should not just be to Mr. Sammy Gyamfi, but to all appointees, that you are no longer working or doing things in your private capacity if you are a humanitarian who likes to give dollars, not when you occupy a public office. And I think that being very emphatic on the fact that we don't want to see that or hear that would be the way to go, at least in this instance. And beyond that, perhaps I think it would be a good thing to review their code of conduct, to include issues of this matter, bringing the office into dispute and ostentatious living, and above all, ultimately for us, would be pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill.
Certainly. We've seen the president in other issues direct that some monies be channeled into the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, the Mahama Cares. What do you think of that? Something along those lines for these types of infractions? Maybe he orders that Sammy Gyamfi give up some 6 months of his salary to the fund. What do you say?
No, I've felt that there's an ethical challenge when you do things like that, because it suggests that when you pay money, we can gloss over breaches of policy and law and the Constitution.
Right.
Indeed, I had said that I think that the president should rethink his approach to this, because his appointees were already in breach of Article 286. So when he fixed it first March, he was already, in a way, leading them on a path that many of us thought, that's not the way to go. So a person who is in breach of the express articles of the Constitution should not be paying money and then seemingly left off the hook. I think that they should find other sources for that very important initiative, Mahama Cares, which we all support, not when persons are breaching constitutional elements or law or policy or what we all consider as good sense and good practice. Not in this instance. I don't think that's the way to go.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your time this morning. Mr. Adam Senanu is an anti-corruption campaigner, and I'm sure we'll be able to reconnect when the day is done and find out what the next steps are in this saga. Time check, it is some 15 minutes to the top of the hour, 9 a.m. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
3FM Sunrise.
And a number of you sharing your thoughts on social media. Do keep them coming. This one is coming from Coupons Guy. He says, Ebeko Baby Anna. And he's referring to the Chief of Staff summoning Gold Board CEO Sammy Jemfi over the Agrada Money video. Israel Gabianu says, we await what will be done or said. And of course, we will be keeping a close eye on this one. H_Ekufu says, this is what good governance means. He will be summoned. If there's a need for investigations, it will be conducted by the appropriate bodies. He will not be shielded like we've seen in the past, and the president will not write a love letter to exonerate him. Some more comments from you all. This one is from the Ordinary Ghanaian. He said Sammy Jemfi was only showing his confidence in the Ghana city. He realizes the dollar is becoming not so powerful, and that's why he's giving it out. What an interesting perspective. I'm sure that one was said in jest. This one from Stretch Dom says, Agrada should return the money. Hey, would you, Anka, you would return the money?
You see yourself, but today's not permanent. Everybody's day will come. Police or presidents on judgment.
At Simon W. Cow says, why did he not render? And he's referring to Sammy Jemfi, this act of generosity while in opposition. He says he's the senior prefect to Cecilia Dapa. These are your thoughts, the thoughts of the everyday Ghanaian.
Don't look down on the farm out in Winchi. Everybody that talks so they hear less. Even cowards are screaming, they're fearless.
At Isaac9453 says, for Sammy Jemfi, it will merely be a tap on the wrist. What are your thoughts, your comments? Do contribute to the conversation. You can find us on X, on Facebook, and also on Instagram. We are at 3FM 92.7. Do keep your thoughts coming.
Sunrise on 3FM.
All right, this one is coming from Mento_Sebi. And he says, suspend him for 1 week, transfer his 2-month salary to Mahama Cares, and that will be a good precedent. Well, I picked the thoughts of Adam Senanu on this issue. He says it's not enough for appointees to give off money to the fund or to any other initiative. It can't be seen that money solves all infractions. I've got to agree with him there. This one is from Bismarck Ada. He said, this is settings. Nothing go happen. Another one here from Ransford Asante. He said he should donate his 6-month salary to the Mahama Cares as punishment. At Count Joey says, Enko Sishe. Don Hausa says, this is political cosmetics. Keep your thoughts coming. We'll read them out as they come. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. DJ Abiyam on the ones and twos.